You have probably had the experience of sitting alone, stripping away the opinions you inherited and the assumptions you absorbed, trying to figure out what you actually believe. This personal exercise of tearing down the world to find one thing that is genuinely true owes its existence to a single man in the 17th century. In 1619, the search for certainty became a desperate act of intellectual survival. René Descartes found himself in a world of crumbling authorities, where nothing, not even the ground beneath his feet, could be trusted. On the night of November 10th, a 23-year-old French soldier named René Descartes sat alone in this small, stove-heated room in Bavaria. He was wintering with the army, with no battles to fight and no company to keep. He was consumed by a single frustration. Everything he had learned at the elite college of Flèche amounted to a heap of disputed claims and competing authorities. Only mathematics offered him any sense of certainty. That night, he had 3 dreams. Phantoms chased him through streets. A thunderclap filled his room with sparks. A book of poetry fell open to a single line. "What path shall I take in life?" Descartes took the dreams as a divine sign. His path would be to find a method that could give all human knowledge the absolute, undeniable certainty of geometry. It took 18 years to act on that vision. By 1633, he had completed The World, a grand treatise on physics that explained nature through matter and motion alone. But that same year, the Roman Inquisition condemned Galileo for defending the view that the Earth moves around the sun. Terrified of a similar fate, Descartes shelved the manuscript, writing to a friend that it was not his temperament to set sail against the wind. In 1637, he finally published his Discourse on the Method. He purposely wrote it in French rather than academic Latin, so that anyone with the power of reason could follow the argument. Modern philosophy began as an act of evasion. To find a truth immune to the Inquisition, Descartes had to build a system that relied on no external authority whatsoever. This system begins with a total demolition. He starts by rejecting the senses because of optical illusions, like a straight stick looking bent in water. If your senses can trick you once, they can never be fully trusted. He escalates the doubt further. He asks, what if you are dreaming right now, and the entire physical world is simply an elaborate hallucination? Then comes the ultimate sabotage, a malicious demon. Descartes proposes that an evil entity could be feeding you illusions, making you believe that 2 + 3 = 5, when in reality it does not. At this point, the demolition is complete. If every sensory input and every rule of logic is compromised, there is nothing left in the universe that can be trusted as real. A moment of wonder. But at the very bottom of this void, one thing survives. The act of doubting itself cannot be doubted. To doubt is to think, and to think is to exist. Cogito, ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. To rebuild the world, Descartes looked inward. He found the idea of a perfect being, an idea he realized his own imperfect, doubting mind could never have invented. For that idea to exist, he reasoned, a perfect God had to be the actual source of it. Because a perfect God would not be a deceiver, the clear and distinct perceptions given to us can finally be trusted. Reality is restored. Descartes proved that a single, isolated human mind could establish truth from nothing, rendering priests and ancient institutions obsolete. This reconstruction left behind a permanent fracture. Descartes separated the universe into mind, a thinking substance with no spatial dimensions, and body, a physical substance that occupies space. In 1643, a 24-year-old exile named Princess Elisabeth of Bohemia wrote to Descartes and identified the fatal flaw in this logic. Her argument was devastatingly simple. If the mind has no physical location, how can it move a physical body? To move something, you must make contact. To make contact, you must be somewhere. Here, the mind simply phases right through the matter it's supposed to control. This critique exposed the limits of Cartesian logic, creating the mind-body problem that remains a central debate in modern philosophy and neuroscience. Descartes' replies to Elisabeth grew evasive. He eventually admitted that the union of mind and body was something grasped only through ordinary life, not through the intellect. He never truly answered her. He spent his final months in a freezing Swedish castle, giving philosophy lessons to Queen Christina at 5 in the morning. He lasted only 4 months before dying of pneumonia at age 53. This brings us back to the start, the warmth of this stove in a quiet Bavarian room. Descartes died in the cold, far from the isolation that allowed him to build his system. It leaves us with one final question. Did Descartes prove that the mind can operate independently of the physical world? Or was his philosophy entirely dependent on the physical warmth, the silence, and the luxury of time provided by that room?